ASMR one, I think. Thank you. Thank you so much for all the lovely comments that I've had since the last little video. Again, been slightly busy. We were evicted from our flat in London, so we've managed to find somewhere else about 100 yards down the road. One tube station from where we were, so that's worked out. I've also got a play that I wrote that I'm directing. It's going on at the Tabard Theatre in London in April. It's called The Ghost of a Chance, and I've got a couple of really good actors involved, so things are a bit busy at the moment, but as always I thought I'd pop back and do another little bit from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Little notebook as well. I'm a bit of an anorak when it comes to notebooks. I keep saying, if you're interested, I'll show you my little automated writing system. It's a smart pen, basically. It has a camera in the nib, and as you write, it digitises what you write. I quite like the idea of writing in longhand. And perhaps like a lot of writers, I spend so much time procrastinating over what software to use and maybe even which computer to use. So I've got a couple of laptops. Excuse me. I spend so much time doing that, I actually find that I'm not writing enough. But I've always liked a little moleskin. And this was a little present for Christmas, which is why I think it was red. Even though we're near Easter now. But yeah, my little anorak coaster out of the way. And let's get back to Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley, creator of sci-fi, perhaps. This is the 1818 text. Born in London in 1797. Daughter of William Goodwin and Mary Wollstonecraft. I seem to remember hearing there's either a new film or a new play or something celebrating the life of Mary Wollstonecraft. She was sort of one of the first, perhaps, radical writers. Radical's perhaps the wrong term. Feminist writers. You probably know more than I do, but yes, she died tragically 10 days after Mary Shelley's birth, which bugged her for a while. And maybe it was one of the reasons why we had this tone. But let's get to it. Here's my very expensive bookmark. Sorry again, sniffling. There's quite a lot of colds going around London at the moment. Change of the seasons or something. So this is where we ended up. Affectionate brother, R. Walton. So let's continue with this now. Letter 2 to Mrs. Saville, England. Archangel, the 28th of March, 17. How slowly time passes here, encompassed as I am by frost and snow. Yet a second step is taken towards my enterprise. I have hired a vessel and am occupied in collecting my sailors. Those whom I have already engaged appear to be men on whom I can depend and are certainly possessed of dauntless courage. But I have one want which I have never yet been able to satisfy, in the absence of the object of which I now feel as a most severe evil. I have no friend, Margaret. When I am glowing with the enthusiasm of success, there will be none to participate my joy. And if I am assailed by disappointment, no one will endeavour to sustain me in its dejection. I should commit my thoughts to paper, it is true, but that is a poor medium for the communication of feeling. I desire the company of a man who could sympathise with me, whose eyes would reply to mine. You may deem me romantic, my dear sister, but I bitterly feel the want of a friend. I have no one near me, gentle, yet courageous, possessed of a cultivated as well as of a capricious mind, whose tastes are like my own, to approve or amend my plans. How would such a friend repair the faults of your poor brother. I am too ardent in execution and too impatient of difficulties, but it is a still greater evil to me that I am self-educated. For the first 14 years of my life I ran wild on a common, and read nothing but our Uncle Thomas's books of voyages. At that age I became acquainted with the celebrated poets of our own country, but it was only when it had ceased to be in my power to derive its most important benefit from such a conviction that I perceived the necessity of becoming acquainted with more languages than that of my native country. Now I am 28 and am in reality more illiterate than many schoolboys of 15. It is true that I have thought more, and that my daydreams are more extended and magnificent, but they weren't, as the painters call it, keeping, and I greatly need a friend who would have sense enough not to despise me as a romantic, and affectionate enough for me to endeavour to regulate my mind. Well, these are useless complaints. I shall certainly find no friend on the wide ocean, nor even here in Archangel, among merchants and seamen. Yet some feelings, unallied to the dross of human error, beat even in these ragged bosoms. My lieutenant, for instance, is a man of wonderful courage and enterprise. He is madly desirous of glory. He is an Englishman, and in the midst of national and professional prejudices, unsoftened by cultivation, retains some of the noblest endowments of humanity. I first became acquainted with him on board a whale vessel. Finding that he was unemployed in this city, I easily engaged him to assist in my enterprise. The master is a person of an excellent disposition, and is remarkable in the ship for his gentleness and the mildness of his discipline. He is indeed of so amiable a nature that he will not hunt a favourite and almost the only amusement here, because he cannot endure to spill blood. He is, moreover, heroically generous. Some years ago he loved a young Russian lady of moderate fortune, and having amassed a considerable sum in prize money, the father of the girl consented to the match. He saw his mistress once before the desired ceremony, but she was bathed in tears, and throwing herself at his feet, entreated him to spare her, confessing at the same time that she loved another, but that he was poor, and that her father would never consent to the union. My generous friend reassured the suppliant, and on being informed of the nature of her lover, instantly abandoned his pursuit. He had already bought a farm with his money, on which he had designed to pass the remainder of his life, but he bestowed the whole on his rival, together with the remains of his prize money to purchase stock, and then himself solicited the young woman's father to consent to her marriage with her lover. But the old man decidedly refused, thinking himself bound in honour to my friend, who, when he found the father inexorable, quitted his country, nor returned until he heard that his former mistress was married according to her inclinations. What a noble fellow, you will exclaim. He is so. But then he has passed all his life on board a vessel, and has scarcely an idea beyond the rope and the shroud. But do not suppose that, because I complain a little, or because I can conceive a consolation for my toils which I may never know, that I am wavering in my resolutions. Those are as fixed as fate, and my voyage is only now delayed until the weather shall permit my embarkation. The winter has been dreadfully severe, but the spring promises well. and it is considered as a remarkably early season, so that perhaps I may sail sooner than I expected. I shall do nothing rashly. You know me sufficiently to confide in my prudence and my considerateness, whenever the safety of others is committed to my care. I cannot describe to you my sensations on the near prospect of my undertaking. It is impossible to communicate to you a conception of the trembling sensation, half pleasurable and half fearful, with which I am preparing to depart. I am going to explore unexplored regions, to the land of mist and snow, but I shall kill no albatross. Therefore, do not be alarmed for my safety. But I shall I meet you again, after having traversed immense seas and returned by the most southern cape of Africa or America? I dare not expect such success, yet I cannot bear to look on the reverse of the picture. Continue to write to me by every opportunity. I may receive your letters, though the chance is very doubtful, on some occasions when I need them most to support my spirits. I love you very tenderly. Remember me with affection, should you never hear from me again. Your affectionate brother, Robert Walton. That's a good letter, isn't it? Well, what are we doing for time? Let's just quickly look at letter 3 to Mrs. Sappho in England, July 7th. Where were we here? March 17th. So, July 7th. My dear sister, I write a few lines in haste to say that I am safe and well advanced on my voyage. This letter will reach England by a merchantman now on its homeward voyage from Archangel, more fortunate than I, who may not see my native land perhaps for many years. I am, however, in good spirits. My men are bold and apparently firm of purpose, nor do the floating sheets of ice that continually pass us, indicating the dangers of the region towards which we are advancing, appear to dismay them. We have already reached a very high latitude, but it is the height of summer, and although not so warm as in England, the southern gales which blow us speedily towards those shores which I so ardently desire to attain breathe a degree of renovating warmth which I had not expected. No incidents have hitherto befallen us that would make a figure in a letter. One or two stiff gales and the breaking of a mast are accidents which experienced navigators scarcely remember to record, and I shall be well content if nothing worse happens to us during our voyage. Adieu, my dear Margaret. Be assured that for my own sake as well as yours I will not rashly encounter danger. I will be cool, persevering, and prudent. Remember me to all my English friends. Most affectionately yours, R.W. And we might pause at letter 3, although you can see so strange an accident has happened. No, I'll tease you with that for later. My very expensive bookmark back in its cover. Yes, interesting, the 1818 text. As I mentioned before, I actually adapted and directed a play called The Birth of Frankenstein at the Edinburgh Fringe a couple of years ago. And I became very fond of Mary Shelley. I've also mentioned many times that we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so I think we can monetize this channel. So if you haven't clicked the little button, perhaps you wouldn't mind doing so. Now either the book's moving or my little setup's moving. I think it's probably my little setup. If we do many more of these, I'm going to have to get a proper camera, aren't I, rather than just using my phone all the time. Oh, crikey. But before everything else collapses, I shall leave you now. Thank you so much for your attention and your time, and your kind comments. And as always, to quote Charles Dickens,